Put that on.
Good evening. Prior to us coming back to order, I would like to refer anybody who needs translator services to Ms. Paula Valbuena in the back.
Thank you, President West, sorry. Buenas noches, habla Paula Valbuena. Si necesita servicio de interpretación al español, por favor llame al 1-805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 495-583-370 más la tecla numeral. Este es un número totalmente gratis. Nuevamente, llame al número de teléfono 1-805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 495-583-370 más la tecla numeral. También puede acceder a estas instrucciones en nuestro sitio web en mcs4kids.com dirigiéndose a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Quick Links y haciendo clic en Board Agendas para ir a la agenda de esta noche. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valbuena. Welcome to the Modesto City Schools 1458th regular board meeting of March 8th, 2021. This meeting is now called to order. In closed session, the board unanimously approved a resolution authorizing the administration to immediately suspend and initiate dismissal proceedings against a permanent certificated employee. The board strongly believes that the protection of students is paramount. Inappropriate conduct will not be tolerated. This situation allegedly occurring on March 1st, 2021, does not represent the overall exemplary behavior and actions taken by the vast majority of our staff every day. We cannot comment further on specifics of personnel matters. We will continue to cooperate with law enforcement as necessary. In closed session, the board took no other action. We are going to begin tonight by taking roll call. Student Representative Carranza? Thank you. Trustee Brown?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Maestas?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Marks?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Mejia?
Present.
Thank you. Vice President Lopez?
Present.
Thank you. And President West. We are going to take a moment of silence now, so please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. Good evening, everyone. This open session of the meeting of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. The live stream is available on the district's website, and the recordings will be available for viewing the day after the board meeting. Modesto City School Board meetings have been adjusted for the public to follow state guidelines on social distancing until further notice. This action was taken in response to the Governor's Executive Order N2520 and Resolution 1920-17, delegating authority to take necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, adopted by Modesto City Schools on March 18, 2020. Regarding public comment, Modesto City Schools has provided an opportunity for the public to provide comment. It is outlined in the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to call in and leave a voicemail. Send us a comment via an email address or appear in person before the board. This practice will continue until further notice. For members of the public that are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. Moving on now to the Pledge of Allegiance, we are pleased to welcome a student from Rose Avenue Elementary School to lead us in the flag salute tonight. Avery Stevens is a third grader and a model student who gives 100% effort in class and distance learning. She participates in running club, chorus, and has been a student council representative. Avery has a kind heart, always willing to help others, and is a friend to all. She enjoys animals, drawing, camping, vacationing, and spending time with family. Following graduation, Avery would like to help save animals, be an inventor, and one day become a mom. Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hi everyone, my name is Avery Stevens. I'm in third grade at Rose Avenue Elementary. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Avery. That was wonderful. We're moving on now to A5, and that is Dr. Noguchi's welcome and announcements.
Wonderful. Thank you, President West. So first off, I'd like to say good evening to everyone in the room and everyone who has tuned in via the computer. I do want to bring your attention to Teams. We are going to continue with Teams while all the board is here for cabinet members. I'm going to really work towards getting fewer people in the room as possible. So for those that are here, they have a presentation. For those that do not have a presentation, they're still here with us and they're here to be able to answer any questions that you might have along the way in this board meeting. I am very excited for tonight's board meeting because of a couple items. We've been working for a number of years on our early childhood education redesign, really spending some very thoughtful work in this program, and so we will have a report on the early childhood education. Additionally, our alternative education, there's been some massive work with alternative ed. We were going to bring it to you 6 months ago. However, with COVID, there has really been some changes that we've made as a result of really addressing the needs of our secondary students. So we added in some additional work for COVID, and so we are going to bring it to you tonight. So again, excited about two programs that we are continuing to move forward despite our setbacks with COVID-19. And then lastly, I'm excited that we have Inter-High Council student recommendations. We heard recommendations at our last regular board meeting, although tonight we're going to go a little bit more in depth and hear some voices. So I'm very excited for that. So I want to move on to elementary. We are beginning March 15th, as you all voted on February 22nd, that we will be merging full day kids in elementary school, TK 6 for 4 days a week, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. As you can imagine, there's a lot of work that's being done right now. We're identifying those students that will be coming to school and those students that the parents would like them to remain at home, and then readjusting all the classrooms. As of Friday of last week, there were only 4 or 5 classrooms that didn't appear as though it was going to fit the number of students that wanted to come in, but we're confident that we can make adjustments. So at a district that's as large as we are with 22 elementary schools, I think that that's pretty darn good to be able to fit our students in to accommodate the CDPH guidelines that really outline the requirements. On the secondary front, we are very hopeful for tomorrow. Tuesday is the day that we always find out what our numbers are in either positivity rate or the rates per 100,000. Last week we had 1 red number and 1 purple number, so we're hopeful that perhaps we can have 2 red numbers tomorrow. Again, we'll find out from the governor and his staff. We will communicate out on Wednesday to staff and to parents what the next steps are. Each Wednesday is to keep everyone informed so they don't have to try to decipher what's going on the news station. So we will provide some information on our next steps there. And then lastly, we are looking at summer programs. I don't want to just think about it in summer school and remediation. It's going to be a very different summer school program. We're currently at the beginning, middle stages of engaging folks in what that might look like. We recognize that remediation is an important piece. Filling some of those gaps are an important piece, but the social emotional health of our students and learning how to interact and engage and enrichment is also important. We will come back in April and provide you a report and get your guys' feedback and input as we move forward with that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to President West. Thank you.
Thank you. Exciting things going on in the district. We're going to move on to A6, which is the board member reports. And I want to say, I think this is the first board meeting, regular board meeting, that we're all here.
Yep.
So it's wonderful to see everyone here in the same room. Yay. So do we have any reports from our board members? And our lights are working today. So if you do want to share, please let me know by turning on your light. President Mark, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That was last time.
You can go.
Trustee Marks.
Okay, yes, and that's right. I saw Trustee Brown also wave his hand, so I know he doesn't have a light, I guess, so.
Okay.
All right. So I had a couple of meetings that I've attended. One was the Equity and Racial Justice Task Force final meeting. I'm excited. We came up with a plan to bring to the board. I know we talked a little bit about that at our workshop last Monday, but I'm excited for all of us to see it together. And it was a good meeting. It was about a 6-month process to come to the conclusion of that. And then also I was out of town, so I was having a difficult time actually hearing, and then I was driving, but I attended the Black History presentation by the Dr. Parker, our Parents Leading Change group, and our staff. And they did a great job on it. My understanding is, at least if I heard this correct, was this young man was from America's Got Talent from 2019. I actually saw him on America's Got Talent when he presented. And it was exciting to see him on America's Got Talent. He was from Stockton. And then to see him on our presentation here in Modesto was really awesome. So he did a poem and he shared some of his story and some of the struggles that he's had in his life with our students, just so that they could understand, where he's come from and then what he's become. And then also there was a really wonderful woman. I didn't catch their names. I'm sorry because I couldn't write anything down, but that she played the cello, and wow, she was incredible. So I don't think I got to hear exactly where she was from, but then we made announcements at the end. Our Jocelyn Cooper, the president of the Parents Leading Change, made some announcements for parents so that they could be aware of any upcoming meetings that they might be able to attend. So it was an exciting night. So that was our first time doing that online, not in a facility and not, in a school like we have done before or at the Century Plaza. So I was glad to have that. I guess it was a violin instead of a cello, but anyway, she did a great job. I loved it. So I really am partial to that classical music. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Brown? Okay, thank you. I forgot the way we're spread out, we don't all have lights, so just, you can wave me down.
I did attend the recent meeting of the Stanislaus County School Boards Association and was able to hear comments about other districts and their issues that they're facing with returning students to campus, and stay connected with what's happening with CSBA and within the county. So nothing really out of the ordinary to report, but we are connected and sharing our story and making sure that that we are heard. And I was pleased to just bring forward how effective we've been this past year at hearing the student voice, especially through our student representative to our board. And I thought that was important for other districts to hear how effective that interaction has been for us this year, and how much we've appreciated that input.
Thank you. Vice President Lopez.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that today at during our items for consent, there will be an item on C15. It's called Approval for a Service Agreement with Parent Institute for Qualification. I don't want to take it out. I don't want to make a whole separate motion for it. But what I did want to say is I just want to commend the work that has been done with Modesto City Schools and Pique. This has been a project that has been a part of MCS, lifestyle since 1997. So they weren't part of our schools for a little bit, but I'm glad with the work of this district that they've not only come back, but we're expanding it to other schools. So this is a program that helps parents be more active in their children's life and their children's education by giving them an array of trainings, not only for school, but things that they can work with their kids at home. So I'm really excited about hopefully approving this agreement.
So just to clarify, Vice President Lopez, did you want to remove that from the consent? And if so, where would you like to place it? Or did you just want to emphasize it right now?
No, I wanted to emphasize it so we didn't have to take it out of consent. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Trustee Mejia.
Yes, I want to say I attended the task force for transportation, and again, every time I go to that meeting, it seems like it's pretty eye-opening. There's a lot of things, a lot of conversations happening. I'm excited about the team that's on the table, and I think there's some positive things that are come for the future in the coming months and years around what it means around equity for our communities. So I'm really excited about the work that's being done, and I know there's a lot more to be done in the future, but I'm pretty excited with thus far with the committee meetings. And secondly, I want to...
Is your mic on?
I want to... Yes, I think it's on. Maybe I'm speaking
Okay, I
loud
just
enough.
couldn't hear. Okay, no, it's okay. I just
I want to congratulate our women, because International Women's Day today, and I want to congratulate the leadership. A round of applause if we could do it. And I know they can't hear us up there, but I just want to say it's the leadership and around our district and our teachers and everyone around this table. So I just really want to congratulate them on this special day. It should be every day, but I mean, there's a day.
That was kind.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda.
All right, seeing no more lights or hands, we will move on to A7, and this is our recognition time. Ms. Newton.
Yes, thank you. This is always my favorite time of the board meetings. So thank you, President West and board trustees and cabinet, as well as everyone from the public who is watching. My name is Krista Noonan. I'm the Chief Communications Officer, and it's my pleasure tonight to present our recognitions. First up, we will celebrate a student with outstanding character through our Character Education Recognition Program. Tonight we are celebrating Burbank Elementary School 4th grader Daniel Vega for the character trait of perseverance. Burbank Elementary teacher Alethea Bateman nominated Daniel and shared, "Daniel has been the best example so far in my class for being a distance learning star. He joins our class online daily and is always ready to share. Daniel turns in his independent work daily and is an example of perseverance when it comes to showing all his work and pushing through the challenges of online learning. His family has also shown perseverance in helping him and his siblings log on each day, as well as staying engaged and focused in their conferences. Daniel always has a smile on his face and a good morning or hello to share each day and is truly deserving of this award." So congratulations, Daniel. All right. Next up, we will celebrate our MCS hero. Tonight, we are recognizing Fremont Elementary teacher Jana Roseman, nominated by Fremont Elementary Principal Rebecca Donaldson, who shared, "Jana encompasses the qualities of a hero with characteristics of courage, determination, helpful, honesty, inspirational, and moral integrity. She starts each day coming to work with a positive attitude. Jana participated in professional development so that she can better support teachers on our campus. She was an integral part of learning hubs and made sure the hubs were supported in order to be successful. When the district moved into hybrid learning last November, she helped guide students where they needed to be and made sure all health and safety protocols were followed. Jana also goes above and beyond to make sure new substitutes feel supported and ensures the day is successful for all. Mrs. Roseman is a true hero to all of us at Fremont during one of the most difficult years in education. Thank you for everything you have done to support our staff, teachers, and students. Congratulations, Jana. All right, so next we have a special recognition that is a little bit longer this time because it's my pleasure to recognize our 2020-2021 nominees through the Association of California School Administrators, also known as ACSA Awards. These employees were nominated as Administrators of the Year for their achievements and dedication to public education at both the regional and state levels. Our district had a total of 12 nominees, and 6 of those nominees are moving on to represent ACSA Region 7 in the statewide competition, and I believe that takes place this spring. Tonight it's my pleasure to recognize all 12 of our nominees as true MCS heroes, and they are listed in alphabetical order, so just keep that in mind. First up, we have Dr. Christy Allen. Christy is the Senior Director for Secondary Education and Special Education, and Dr. Allen was nominated as Special Education Administrator of the Year. Next up, we have Rachel Elledge Barkis. She's the Senior Director of Educational Options, and you'll actually hear a presentation tonight from Rachel. Rachel was nominated and selected as the Continuation Educational Options Administrator of the Year. She will be advancing to the statewide competition representing our Region 7. Congratulations, Rachel. Next up, we have Ernesto Calderon, Principal at Orville Wright Elementary. Ernesto was nominated and selected as the Elementary Principal of the Year. He will also be advancing to the statewide competition representing our region. Congratulations. Very exciting. Next up, we have Aaron Castro. Aaron is our Supervisor of Environmental Health and Safety. He was nominated and selected as the Environmental Health and Safety Classified Leader of the Year. He will also be advancing to the statewide competition to represent our region. Next up, I hate to make him blush, but our very own Mr. Henderson, Mike Henderson, Associate Superintendent of Human Resources. Mike was nominated and selected as the Personnel Human Resources Administrator of the Year, and he is also advancing to the statewide competition. Congratulations, Mike. Next up, we have Danielle Hinkle. Danielle is the Senior Director of Student Support Services. Danielle was nominated as the Student Support Services Administrator of the Year. Next, we have Chrissy Mastras. Chrissy is the Administrative Assistant for Dr. Odell in Curriculum and Instruction Professional Development. Chrissy was nominated and selected as the Confidential Employee of the Year, and she's also advancing to the statewide competition to represent our region. Next up, we have the principal from Enochs High School, Amanda Moore. Amanda was nominated as Secondary Principal of the Year. And this will definitely make her blush. So Dr. Noguchi was nominated and selected as Superintendent of the Year. And on behalf of the Board of Education and the entire district, I know that we can all join together in congratulating Dr. Noguchi on her nomination and selection. She'll also be moving on to the statewide competition. And we'll do a round of applause for everybody at the end too, so I want everybody else to know that. Next up, we have Heidi Nunes. You'll also be hearing a presentation from her tonight. Heidi is the Senior Director of Early Childhood Education. She was nominated for the Central Office Early Childhood Education Administrator of the Year Award. Next up, Mike Rich. I call him Magical Mike. He is amazing, able to do so much. He is the Senior Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Professional Development, and Mike was nominated for the Curriculum and Instruction Administrator of the Year. That's a lot of words, sorry. And lastly, but definitely not least, we have Lori Jonas. Lori is the former principal of Hanshaw Middle School. Lori was nominated as the Middle Grade Principal of the Year, And Mrs. Jonas, she had to move out of the state earlier this year to be closer to her family in New York, and she's definitely missed by the district, her staff, and students at Hanshaw, but we do wish her the very best and wanted to give her this nomination. And so congratulations to all of the nominees, and we're definitely proud of everyone that has advanced. Yay, round of applause, round of applause. Okay, and that completes tonight's recognitions.
Thank you so much. We have some comments. Trustee Brown.
So I think we need to recognize the fact that we have so many acknowledged members of our staff who AXA has recognized. And that comes with the encouragement from Dr. Noguchi early on to get our staff and our people more involved in AXA leadership here in the area. And we can see that it's paying off big time, and it's great to be able to recognize our staff. And I have to tell a little secret. I got a fun email from a good friend of mine, Marianne Sanders, who told me I couldn't share it with anybody, but she wanted me to know first that at the moment that she found out that Dr. Noguchi had been selected. And she wanted us to know how proud everyone is here in the county for the leadership that she provides us. So that was a real fun secret to have to hold on to until she actually knew herself that she'd received that.
Thank you so much, Trustee Brown. Now we know who to go to if we ever have a secret that we don't want told. And, you know, we're working towards becoming a destination district. And I think hearing all the wonderful people that we have working in our district makes me believe that it's happening. We are becoming a destination district. We still have work to do, but I'm really pleased to hear that so many of our wonderful, hardworking people that we work with are being recognized for all of their hard work. So congratulations to all of these people. I'd like to move on now to A8. And before we go on to the approval of the consent agenda, Ms. Chambers, are there any members of the public who wish to speak on an item of the consent agenda? No, there is not. Thank you. Ms. Noonan, did we have any comments from the public on the consent agenda?
No, we did not.
Thank you. So I know I had, were there any items that needed to be removed?
Yes.
Trustee Brown had 2 items, I believe. And what were the 2 items?
Well, I think it's only C13, unless there are any other issues related to Tivoli.
I thought that
As
was
much as I support development of homes in bringing more students to our district, I have to recuse myself because I own property that is potential for development within the Tivoli area. So when that issue is addressed, I'll need to leave the room.
Okay, thank you. A little bit unsure about this process. Trustee Brown, do we vote on everything except that? Do we vote on that first and have him leave the room? And then you'll come back and we'll vote on the rest of the items. So voting on item C13, while Trustee Brown is not included in this, I would like to know if anyone would move that we would approve C13. Is that how that works? So do I have someone to?
I motion to approve C13.
A motion
I second.
by Trustee Mejia and Vice President Lopez. All in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Seeing no opposed, it passes unanimously. And Trustee Brown, you can come back in. I don't know if he can hear us. Okay, thank you. And so we're going to vote on the rest of the items on the consent agenda other than C13. And so the approval of the consent agenda, I'm looking for a motion.
I move approval.
Trustee Marks, and seconded by, we'll do Trustee Brown on this one. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item A9 is the approval and order of discussion or action items. So we're looking for a motion to approve the order of the discussion action items. Approval by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Maestas. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. A10 is our period for public presentations. Ms. Chambers, are there any members of the public who wish to speak? None, thank you. Ms. Noonan, were there any comments from the public via email or voicemail for public presentation?
Yes, I have 2 comments that I will read.
Thank you.
The first comment is from Shelley and Charles Brooks. They are parents, and the topic is on reopening of schools. The comment is as follows. Good afternoon. I appreciate you taking comments, and I hope that they will be heavily weighed when making the decisions whether to remain in distance learning or opening up our junior high and high schools. I have a junior high and high school student that I have watched become very apathetic about school. This is a far cry for both of them, as they had much excitement at the thought of starting new schools last year. As I listen to their lectures, I am able to totally understand their discouragement. To no fault of the instructors, I am hearing hours of time that has nothing to do with the subject. Going through absences and grades in grade books for every student in the class, discussing why our county is still in a certain tier, just filling up space. The kids are supposed to sit and listen to that for an hour and a half a period. Please consider the thousands of kids sitting alone in their rooms on a daily basis. Even as I work from home and am checking in on them regularly, I see the discouragement and frustration that this is causing. Again, thank you for hearing the parents and our concerns as we are on the front lines seeing how our kids are responding. Thank you, Shelley and Charles Brooks. The next comment comes from a teacher from Downey High School, Jeremy Pla. I hope I'm saying his last name correctly. He teaches AP Government and AP Human Geography, as well as a head football coach and JV baseball coach. His comment has to do with high school and junior high start times and athletics. The comment is as follows. If there's any way possible to start our high school time at 8:30 a.m. so we can end at 2:40 p.m., please do it. That would allow athletic practice to start at 3:10 p.m. and we can be done shortly after 5 p.m. Right now, with the proposal ending the high school day at 3:10 p.m., that means practice starts at 3:40 p.m. and that would have practice going till 6 p.m. The daily practice struggle is going to mean late nights for our student athletes. There are only a few sports at the junior high level and maybe none this year. Please switch the start time proposals for junior high and high school. Thank you. And that concludes the public comments that were submitted.
Thank you, Ms. Noonan. We're moving on now to our discussion and action items, and we're going to start with our student representative report, Carson Carranza.
Hello everyone. The Inter-High Council and I met last week to prepare for the Tournament of Talent and have our final discussion about the grading policy recommendation. All the schools have been working to ensure that their site talent show is completed before April 1st. Filming for this year's virtual talent show will take place in the Downey Auditorium on April 5th between 5 and 8 p.m. Most of the high school leadership programs have just recently released their applications for the 2021 to 2022 school year and have begun evaluating some of their candidates. Modesto High pushed back their virtual homecoming in hopes of having it partially in person later on. Bayer has been preparing for school reopenings and broke into different committees to work on Spring STEAM Week. Enox has been busy with an assortment of projects such as Culture Week, Senior Royalty, Athletic Recognition, and a Mental Health Week. Lastly, Davis partnered with a local business called Flight Nutrition, where they made a drink for their school and encouraged students to support the business. On February 17th, the activities directors from every high school hosted a meeting with the seniors from each high school to discuss their wishes for the end of the school year. The general consensus among all the seniors, which includes myself, are we strongly desire an in-person graduation. Although having family present at the ceremony would be optimum, if seniors have to walk the stage alone or have to walk the stage without the family present, we would be comfortable with that. Adequate spacing can be achieved on the football fields, and 2 ceremonies could be held if necessary. Some of the additional requests from seniors included a senior sunset, a senior lunch on campus, and other activities where all the seniors can be on campus together in one cohort before we graduate. But the top priority is to have an in-person graduation. Thank you all for listening to my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Trustee Irvin?
Yes, Carson, on the graduation. Now, did you guys like come up with a plan? You know, I know you made some recommendations, like of how that could be played out effectively. You know, in this COVID environment. You know, and we could be better in May. You know, there. But did you guys discuss any strategies? Okay, this is how we could do it by each school, knowing which school uses what field and things like that in terms of how we can do it. Because, you know, I would like to see that as well. If we got to attend 2 graduations, then attend 2 graduations as a board member so we can see our students walk across that stage, something that eluded us last year.
Got it.
So I was just wondering, had you guys got that far in the discussion?
So the main thing we discussed about in terms of having a graduation be possible was to have 2 separate ceremonies where the students would be able to be spaced out on the football fields. I remember in the past, and we looked at a couple pictures from previous graduations where all the students are on the field at the same time. There's still a lot of space. Usually about 2/3 of the football field is used in a normal graduation without adequate spacing. So this year it would most likely have to happen during 2 ceremonies, or start moving the chairs onto the track and space out students individually with their chairs, since the chairs are not connected in rows anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Seeing no other hands, we'll be moving on to B2, which is our California School Employees Association report. Do we have a report from CSCA tonight? I see no one. Thank you. B3 is the approval of vote for no more than 2 candidates for the CSBA Delegate Assembly for 2021. Superintendent Noguchi?
Thank you, President West. The Delegate Assembly is a primary policymaking body for CSBA. The board, as a whole, may vote for up to 2 vacancies in the region, as indicated by the ballot. The 2 vacancies for Region 8C, and only 2 nominations were received. The board may vote for no more than 2. The 2 nominees are both incumbents. One is Cindy Lindsay from Sylvan Union School District, and the other is Paul Wallace from Newman Crow's Landing. The ballot also contains a provision for write-in. So at this time, I'm asking for votes for the 2 incumbents. We'll do it individually. And if there is a write-in, I'll take that as a third option. So first one, Cindy Lindsay for Sylvan Union School District for Delegate Assembly.
Are you looking for a motion?
I'm actually looking for it to vote. So we'll individually vote for each person, and then unless you want to have someone written in there.
So do we need a roll call for this?
We do.
Or just thumbs up and
We
hands?
could do thumbs up.
All right, so.
Although I'm gonna defer to Trustee Martz, because she definitely has gone through this a number of times. She herself is part of this. So Cindy,
It's fine. Normally we would just make a motion to support the 2 candidates, or someone might make a motion just to support 1 candidate, and then we just vote.
perfect.
So I don't know if anybody has a comment on it, on the candidates, but they're both incumbents.
Vice President Lopez, do you have a comment?
I had a question because I think that this is something that keeps coming up. I know that past board members have brought it up. What is the guidelines that one must take if they want to end up on this delegate ballot, right?
Good question. So usually the deadline is January, so there'll be another one next year, and there'll only be 1 candidate because we have 3 in our county that are the members, and so 3 delegates. So in December, we'd put it on our voting to vote on our agenda, and then we nominate one of us or anyone else. We can do that. So so it's just submitting it in December and then having it, because we just have to get the paperwork in before January. You have to fill out a bio, answer their questions. As you'll see here, they answered some questions. So it's a great opportunity. I know we've had a few candidates run in the past, and I actually got elected one year when I ran, so that's how I ended up in Delegate Assembly.
Great. No, I just wanted to make sure, because I know it's been a reoccurring conversation, but no one has thrown their hat on the ring from our district, and I think someone should. So I just wanted to make sure that we all knew what was the process for that.
Yeah, that's good. That was a great question.
So I just made a note that I'll bring it back in December. So I will keep my eye out for that for this next year.
Yes, that's good.
So with that, thank you, Trustee Marks. I'm looking for a motion to approve Cynthia Lindsay from Sylvan Union and Paul Wallace from Newman's Crows Landing.
I will move.
Okay.
Okay, President West, have a second?
A second.
Okay. Trustee Lopez, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's a 2-year term, so they'll be back on if they want to run again, and if they have to be a board member to do this position, so they'll be on in 2 years. It'll be 2 seats, and it's 1 year next year.
Thank you. We're moving on to B4, and this is a report on early childhood education, department restructure to improve quality. And this will be Ms. Nunes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good evening, President West, Board of Trustees, Dr. Noguchi, and Cabinet. My name is Heidi Nunes, and I'm the Senior Director of Early Childhood Education. And it's my pleasure tonight to discuss and update you on some of the work that continues in early childhood education. So, the purpose of our presentation this evening is to provide information on our ECE department analysis, inform you of the current ECE structure, recommended ECE restructure and the rationale for new positions, the fiscal impact and implications, next steps, and then answer any questions that you may have. The proposed restructure of early childhood education is aligned to district goals 1, 3, and 4. Really, I feel like it could encompass all of our goals, but these are the main ones that I wanted to share. And before I begin, I just want to share some of the acronyms that I'll be using through the presentation this evening, because there are quite a few in our department. So we'll start off with our site-based programs. We have CSPP, which is our California State Preschool Program. That's our contract for preschool with the California Department of Education, along with RHS, which is Regional Head Start, and that's our contract to provide Head Start with Stanislaus County Office of Education. As well as our Family Child Care Network, we have FCCH, which is our Family Child Care Homes. CCTR is our General Child Care and Development Contract with the California Department of Education. EHSCCP, that's our Early Head Start contract with SCO, and as well as ERSI, and that's one of the components that we are monitored on in the FPM and our Head Start monitoring reviews. So as I transitioned into my new role as the ECE Senior Director, it was very important to me to learn about the department and gain a solid understanding of the regulations and standards that we're driven by. Our mission is to provide a high-quality early childhood education program that supports the cognitive, social, and emotional growth and ensures kindergarten readiness for all children that we serve. In order to do so, we needed to honestly reflect on where we are now and determine what changes needed to be made and implemented in order to become a destination ECE program. As a department, we develop stakeholder and focus groups and look closely at our most recent monitoring reviews to identify the strengths and our areas in need of growth. So I wanted to start off with some highlights from our most recent review. So we have a very collaborative culture, which is something that is growing in our department. We have a mentor-worthy and exemplary family child care network. We have notable growth in California State Preschool and Regional Head Start. We're developing systems to analyze data, identify trends, and plan intentional professional development. There's a solid understanding of the work that needs to be done. We're definitely not there, but we're well on our way. And that they're very confident in the leadership and the vision of our department. In order to understand our deficiencies, we looked very closely at the findings from FPM and our Head Start monitoring reviews. And it was important to note that many of these findings have been ongoing in Head Start and have elevated to higher level deficiencies, which required immediate changes. So these findings in areas of technical assistance were in the areas of fiscal, ERSI, family and community services, human resources, education, and health and safety. And there's definitely a focus on health and safety now with the COVID restrictions and guidelines that we have. So ensuring that we align our fiscal and human resources to create a supportive program structure has been an overarching finding for many years in Head Start, and most recently in FPM. The current program structure is not sufficient to support such a large department. And because of these current findings and ongoing quality issues, the lack of structure in our department to support our students, teachers, and staff, our regional Head Start program is in what's called a Tier 1 contract with SCO for the second year in a row, which means we receive extensive support in order to ensure quality. So in order to continue to provide and contract with Head Start, we have to address the findings and have a plan of improvement and show progress. So discussions began to reduce the number of Head Start children being served, and on September 28th, we brought that to you. We reduced the number so that we were able to address the quality issues and focus on best serving our children and families. So everything kept coming back to program structure, and all of these findings that were addressed could be corrected if the program structure was addressed. And so it was important to compare what our structure was when we were a quality ECE program to where we are now, and the results are telling. So ECE currently serves 1,433 children when we are fully enrolled. So right now we currently have 3 managers, we have 60 teachers, 46 paraprofessionals, 28 support staff across 18 sites in our district, and 22 homes across the county. So in 2007 and 8 is when we could go back to say that we really were a quality program at that time. We served approximately 1,100 children. We had 6 managers, 50 teachers, 40 paras, 33 support staff, and we served children at 16 sites and 11 family child care homes. So you can definitely see that there is a direct correlation to quality and the structure. So from there, we moved forward and collaboratively reviewed all of the data to create a plan to improve our structure and to address the findings. We had stakeholder meetings, and that was all ECE staff were invited to provide input. We had multiple meetings. We actually had another one last week. We had focus group meetings where we got more in depth in our findings and discussed the structure, and that included representatives from both MTA and CSCA and classified certificated and management staff. We also went to our parents to get input, and so we had parent policy council meetings. And from there, we moved forward with the idea of the reduction of slots. So that reduction of 80 Head Start slots allows approximately $500,000 in funding to be reallocated to increase our program quality to address the deficiencies. We have phase 2, which is a potential down the road. We didn't want to do too much too fast, and that would be the potential to reduce an additional 40 slots if quality is still not met at that time. So to give you an idea of what our current program structure looks like, you can see that we have 2 tiers. One is the family child care homes, and one is our center-based side, which is at all of our sites. And you can see that it is lopsided in that our family child care manager and support staff serve 22 different providers, whereas on the other side, on the center-based side, we have 53 classes across 18 sites. So this is going to be kind of tricky to read, but you can see this is our proposed organizational restructure, and you can notice that it's much more evenly split, and so that we can have focused areas where there's support being provided. So to take a closer look at the new positions that we'd like to add, we are proposing 2 health and safety specialists. These are both classified positions, and these health and safety specialists will support our site staff to ensure compliance with all health and safety state and federal regulations, as well as enhancing indoor and outdoor environments to ensure that they are both engaging and meet all of the required regulations. We have our fiscal and special projects manager, and this is a classified manager who would supervise and support with the development, control, and analysis of our ECE budgets, We have 5 separate contracts totaling more than $11 million. So there's definitely a need for oversight to ensure accuracy, monitoring, and follow-through, as well as gathering and analyzing data to support in the improvement of our current program and expansion of ECE programs as those opportunities arise. And then finally, with our ERSI and Support Services Coordinator, that is a classified manager as well. And that person would be responsible for supervising and supporting all components of ERSI. So really focusing in on attendance too, I think is very important, as well as engaging and supporting our families, recruiting new families into our program. And this is something that now we're finding is more important than ever. That's being the liaison between ECE and our elementary sites to support in TK and K enrollment. We've had a very involved approach this year, and we're definitely gathering and supporting parents in the new enrollment processes. So the fiscal impact of these changes, you can see that the reduction of those slots saved approximately $440,000 in personnel costs alone. The proposed costs for the new positions are approximately $367,000 for a total department savings of about $73,000. So it's all internal, and we would need to request additional funding. The implications of these new positions will increase our program quality by restructuring ECE to support the emotional, social, and cognitive growth of our students, to ensure kindergarten readiness, to provide outreach and support and education to our families, and to provide professional development and support to our staff, as well as ensuring that we are fiscally sound and in compliance with the state and federal regulations. So our next steps, we'll be coming back to the board on March 29th, requesting approval of these changes. From there, we would work with human resources and our labor partners with the job descriptions, implement the changes, and then at the end of next year, evaluate the effectiveness of our changes, and then to see if phase 2 is necessary. Do you have any questions for me?
Very thorough. Thank you. I appreciate the plan. After hearing what, struggles, or I can't call them struggles, but the changes that need to be made to make the program as effective as possible. And then, such a surprise, save money restructuring. That was pretty cool too, to see that could happen. My question has to do with the students, the 80 students that are proposed to be reduced by in phase 1. And how those students are chosen, and then also what other kind of resources are we do we have any way we can still help them? Because I'm sure that's going to be really difficult for them not to have this opportunity for their children.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I can say is that the sites were selected we had a process in selecting the sites based on programs that were offered nearby or at the site. Last year, when we expanded to full-day TK and K, that definitely had an impact on our program. And so we selected sites where there were other state preschool programs that still had availability at the sites, and looked at trend data as well. And so we selected the sites based on that. So yes, we are confident that we can continue to serve these children.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, because I was just thinking if I'm a parent and you're changing everything and my child may not get to go. So that's, and I could see that would be really difficult for a family to face. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go out to see if we have any public comment on this report. Ms. Chambers, do we have any public comments? Ms. Noonan, do we have any public comments to be read?
No, we do not.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the board for any further questions or comments on this report. Seeing none right now, I had a couple. You had mentioned that there was a savings of $73,000, but then you mentioned that there would be additional funds needed for this reorganization.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we would not need additional funds.
Oh, no
I'm
additional
sorry.
funds. Okay.
Yeah, no additional funds are needed. We actually have the savings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then my comment is just, I really liked seeing that liaison between TK and kindergarten. Those are such formative years for our students, and and putting our money, time, energy, and efforts into early childhood education is so important. I just read today about, I think there were 1,000 students that didn't enroll, not just in our district, but I think it was the county, that didn't enroll in kindergarten this year because of, the whole distance learning. And we have all of those students now. The article I read said that students who don't attend preschool and kindergarten are just so far behind. And so we have to figure out ways to catch those students up. So I'm really, really pleased that we're putting a lot of focus into this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Trustee Brown.
Yes, thank you for this report, and grateful to hear that the students who are being moved away from the one program are still addressed in other areas. I'm curious how we receive our funding, and is it not based on the number of students served?
So in state preschool and our general child care, those are per slot, which is based on the students that are enrolled. For Head Start, it is not. It is an agreed upon contract that is written upon the initial, the inception of the grant. And then from there, you work within what the grant that you have. And so we did have to go through an approval process with the Office of Head Start to reduce, but they also found the value in that and really focusing on the quality to build a solid foundation for the students that we're serving.
Thank you so much for this report.
Thank you.
We're moving on to B5 now, which is the report on Modesto City Schools Alternative Education Department, and this will be Ms. Barkus.
All right, good evening. Let me get situated here. All right, good evening, President West, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and Cabinet. I'm Rachel Barkus, and I'm here tonight to talk about our alternative education redesign and the recommendations that have taken place thus far. The purpose of the presentation is to provide an overview of the alternative education programs in Modesto City Schools, outline current conditions, the recommended changes, implications, and next steps. In addition, I will be requesting approval for redesign at the March 29th board meeting. District goal alignment. The most obvious one for us tonight was Goal 1, increase academic achievement and ensure equitable access to enable all students to attain college and career readiness. As Heidi Noon spoke earlier, often these redesigns do elaborate and encompass all of our different goals, but this is the one that stood out the most. So once again, definitions and acronyms are a forefront in our alternative ed area. So some of the definitions that you'll hear tonight, G230, which stands for Graduate with 230 Credits, and it's a credit recovery program. We have TOPS, which is Turnaround Opportunity School for our 9th and 10th grade students. We have METS, which is Modesto Engineering and Industrial Technical School, which is a partnership with MJC that we have for our Elliott Continuation High School. MTS, which is Modesto Technical School, again, another partnership providing opportunities for our Elliott students. MVA, which is Modesto Virtual Academy, our long-term independent study program, and LTIS, which is long-term independent study. Some background here. This is another area that has not undergone a lot of change, but we've been looking at this for a number of years. So alternative education currently is comprised of a number of different programs. We have MVA, TOPS, G230, Elliott, fifth-year seniors, adult education, short-term independent study, and home and hospital. And those are all overseen under the umbrella of alternative ed. So back in December, we started our stakeholder meetings, and we had interviews with a number of different positions, everything from a teacher to support staff to administrators. And so we started that work back in December, and then COVID hit. We did continue the work with informal meetings, but nothing was formalized in the spring. So once COVID hit, we had to shift our focus, the programming and the urgency due to the implications of student learning, which included the expansion of our MVA program, now looking at our student needs for credit recovery. Everything has shifted in this last year in light of COVID. So this last fall, we started having our formal meetings. And again, they were, the members of the meetings were from all different backgrounds, all stakeholders were represented, including MTA and CSEA. So I'm going to start with Elliott Alternative Education High School and some of the changes that have occurred recently. Current conditions, Elliott is a variable credit system, which means that students achieve credits through their attendance, their seat time, as well as their work. We have 2 MJC agreements, MTS and MEETS, and those are our only CTE options, which I presented at our last board meeting. Originally, students did not have one-to-one devices. Now they do, in light of COVID. There's one of our shifts. Transportation, we're looking at some different ways to provide transportation for our at-risk kids. And then the structure and school purpose needs to be revamped a little bit. So this particular program, I'm only presenting 2 slides on where we want to be, the implications and next steps. Essentially, this is what's been recommended. The redesign, the structure and school purpose, which we'll be doing, with your approval with a committee of stakeholders there at the school and outside of Elliott, to change to a term system. And a term system will embed credit recovery within the structure of the term. So 3-week term, 5-week term, there's a number of different options there. For that particular recommendation, we would be working with MTA, teachers, and staff to identify all of the different structures of what that would look like. Thank you for your support on the CTE programs that we're going to be starting there at Elliott. We will be maintaining the one-to-one devices. We're looking at providing city bus passes in conjunction with MCS busing. And then we also are wanting to start an MVA 200 program to support some of the students that we lose to other districts. MVA being our long-term independent study, 200 being the credit amount that you need excuse me, for a continuation diploma. Moving on to G230, again, stands for graduate with 230 credits. Our current conditions, we have 6 G230 teachers, 3 have been at Johansson and 3 at Pearson. Each teacher serves 40 students in 2 different cohorts. They have a morning cohort and an afternoon cohort with 20 students in each section, and transportation is not provided. We currently have 2 G230 school records clerks who have been acting as the attendance clerks, the data entry clerks, and some other different components of the program to help support those. And students use Chromebooks when in the classroom setting. Our enrollment has been full capacity with numerous students on the wait list. This year, with COVID and some of the concerns surrounding our DNF rate, this has skyrocketed. Our wait list has increased, and we anticipate that it will continue to increase, or we will have a need for it over the next couple years. Thank you. I'm a little out of breath tonight for some reason. It's a lot to present. So where we want to be. Okay, now I'm going the wrong way. Can I have some help with this? There we go. Okay. There we are. Okay, perfect. Where we want to be. We would like to have 10 G230 teachers, 3 at Pearson, and 1 at each of the comprehensive sites. Sites would support their own G230 students with their enrollment. So students it would eliminate the transportation piece that's been a concern because students would still be attending the same high school. Students would maintain their one-to-one devices, and we would incorporate desktops with large monitors in the classroom to help with screen fatigue. Implications and next steps. moving the first thing is to move the 3 Johansson teachers to our comprehensive sites, hire 4 additional G230 teachers, change the title and job description of our G230 counselor to an alternative ed counselor, and eliminate one of the G230 SRC positions. With Johansson, if that program is disseminated, we wouldn't need that particular position there to support just that program. Our site support staff would be able to support those teachers. So in light of the current credit recovery need, like I said, we have projection for coming years, and we really need to have this increase from 240 seats for our students to 400 seats. Moving on to Modesto Virtual Academy, or long-term independent study. Current conditions, previous to the pandemic, we only had 3 MVA teachers serving our 912 students with approximately 86 students in the program. Our long-term independent study was given paper and pencil, so kids would check out the books and then they would do their work that way. And then we would also use Apex curriculum for those 86 students in Modesto Virtual Academy. With our COVID shifts, some of our adjustments included hiring 34 full-time MVA teachers serving up to 30 students each. In the fall, we had 1,400 TK-12 students accessing MVA. We chose to go with the Florida Virtual School curriculum and move our LTIS program from paper pencil to virtual only. We added an attendance clerk and a 70% counselor and a TC2 translator to help support the structures of that program and the needs and the increase of that program. Where we want to be, and this is a work in progress, we want to be the premier independent study program in the county. And so with some of the changes that have already been implemented, we are moving towards that, to being the premier independent study program. Previously, we have lost about 250 students to outside programs, including PACE and different independent study programs outside of our district. We want to retain those kids, and one of the ways that we can do that is with maintaining an increase in our MVA opportunities. We are staffing according to interest. We had some interest forms. We had a due date with that, so now we can staff according to the numbers of students interested. We're considering caseload considerations with MTA to include collaboration time, staff meetings, prep time. We want to maintain our current support staff, increase the counselors to 100%, and establish an MVA 200 program at Elliott to reduce students leaving the district. Implications and next steps, we're currently in conversation with updating our letter of agreement to include those considerations for staff meetings and caseloads. We have established a timeline for interest, enrollment, and staffing. We've updated the counselor job description, which MTA has already approved, and we're identifying and securing curriculum. There may be a shift in curriculum, and so we'll be piloting that with Dr. Odell's office with a timeline and sufficient time for professional development. Next, Turnaround Opportunity School. TOPS is a program that serves our 9th and 10th grade students. Currently, we have 2 teachers housed at Gregory High School, and they serve up to 40 students. It is a self-contained classroom of sorts, and so students only go between the 2 teachers. We do have a part-time student assistant specialist in there to help with the mental health needs. We have had transportation, and we're looking at revising the referral process, and then currently, we don't have any follow-up for those students. So when the student leaves the TOPS program, they get put back into the comprehensive site program, or they transfer to Elliott, and there's no follow-up with the students currently in the current structure. So where we want to be. We want to redesign the structure, vision, and purpose of the program. We have some new teachers in that program at Gregory that have excellent ideas and really want to make this, again, a premier program for our district. We would like to look at offering this to only 10th grade students with a referral in the spring of their 9th grade year. Students would need to maintain their placement for 1 year. Currently, they come in and out based on their age or their credits. returning students to the site with support system. So really outline a support system for comprehensive site return. And then we would like to expand this and establish a TOPS program at Downey High School with 2 teachers. TOPS implications and next steps. We will need to rewrite the program vision and mission, establish the new structure, redesign the referral process to include referrals in the spring as opposed to in the fall after school has started, educate counselors and administrators on program purpose, and establish a budget for the program with the comp sites that host this program. With the need for this expansion, the majority of these needs are based on the shift and meeting the needs of COVID. So we're looking at using the CARES funds to help support this restructure, redesign, and this is the basic breakdown. So we would need to add 4 G230 teachers, increase 70% counselor to 100% counselor, add 2 TOPS teachers, and add full-time student assistant specialists for our TOPS programs. We would like to change the alternative education supervisor position to a director 3 position, and the coordinator of vocational training position, which is a classified management position, to an administrator of special projects, alternative ed. The reason for that request is we're really trying to make this a comprehensive overview. So these 2 positions would be assisting with running all of these different programs, including the budgets, the funding sources, the grants, also including some of the programs that I haven't spoke to tonight, our 5th-year seniors, our adult education, and some of the others. With this change, it would eliminate a long-term independent study materials clerk. Students don't use the books anymore. We would eliminate 1 G230 SRC, the position at Johansson, since those teachers would be disseminated out. And then we would also eliminate a vocational assessment specialist. That's part of the adult world umbrella. Next steps. Essentially, my very next step will be to request approval from the board at the March 29th meeting to ask for your permission to move forward with this reorganization and see what additional recommendations you may have. And that is the end of my presentation. May I answer some questions for you?
I'm going to start with any comments from the public. We had discussed a little bit of change of our order, so we're going to start with Ms. Chambers. Do we have comments from the public? No, there are none. None for this one. Ms. Noonan, do we have comments to be read from the public?
No,
on
we
this
do
item?
not.
Okay, now we're going back, questions from the board. And I'm going to start with Trustee Maestas, and then Trustee Irvin, and then Trustee Mejia.
Trustee Brown first.
And were you first, Trustee Brown? Yeah. Sorry. Trustee Brown, why don't you go first, please?
Okay, a couple of questions. Thank you for the report, and I am so pleased to see that we're bringing some CTE opportunities to our kids at Elliott. My dream is that Elliott can be a destination location for kids that need special services that can only be provided there. And so glad to see the program expansion there. With regard to G230, so we still would have 3 teachers working with students at Pearson. If we have a program at each one of the high schools, what is the need for Pearson, and what makes that separate and unique?
And that is a great question. So there's a couple reasons behind this. One is expanding the seats. We really need more seats for students. So maintaining that program at Pearson would allow for that. Secondly, when we're looking at the caseloads at the different high schools and how many students they're recommending, it is more than 40. So in trying to meet those needs, they would be overflow for some school sites where we could still meet those needs. In addition, sometimes these students are needing a change of placement, a change of environment, and that would provide that opportunity. I mean, these students are at risk, so somewhere along the way they've fallen behind in their credits, whether it's distractions at school or something else going on. So some of them may need a different place to go and access this program. So those are some of the reasons why.
Great, thank you. And then with regard to the Modesto Virtual Academy, we've had a huge expansion this year with COVID.
Yes.
Do we have any indication from the families and the students that are participating in MVA this year whether or not they will continue or if they wish to return to full participation at our schools?
So in January, we opened up the referral process or the interest process for our families to show intent to return or intent to move over to the MVA programming for the public. We have right now, we did close the interest form so that we could properly plan. February 19th, I think February 18th or 19th is when we closed it, and we had 672 families interested. Since that closure date, we have had numerous sites reach out and parents reach out expressing interest, so we may need to adjust that. But we do have that many students either continuing or new students who are choosing to explore this option.
Good. And then I have one more question. Sorry to ask so many, but there are some classified positions that will be eliminated with this restructuring. Anytime we cut positions, I'm concerned about the individuals in those positions. What opportunities are there for them within the district?
Mr. Henderson, can I refer to you on this one?
Yes, through the classified layoff process and timeline, that will flesh itself out in terms of, it very much depends on the specific individual and what position they hold and what position, if they have any rights or seniority rights to a position previous to that one. And we'll go through the whole bumping process. We would look to see whatever position they may have rights to, that we try and honor that. Could displace another individual on down the line if they bump someone who then has rights to bump someone. That is a possibility throughout the process. I think the important thing here is to look at the programmatic and operational needs to maximize the program and make it optimal for what the study has shown. And if that means a result of that is we have to look at where to shift staff into available positions that they have rights for, then we'll follow that process.
Dr. Noguchi?
Thank you. To Trustee Brown, something else to add, and this just happened, I believe, today, if not yesterday. Today's Monday, so it happened today. There was approval from the state for learning mitigation, and in this learning mitigation, we are poised to get $33 million, and it's required to spend 10% on paraprofessionals for the next, between now and 2022. So dollars and employment for paraprofessionals. For anyone who's out there listening, we need paraprofessionals, and we have a wonderful opportunity with professional development and support. So this will be a district that is not going to be an area. If you want a job, we have a job for you, and that'll be coming out as moving forward with the learning mitigation plan.
That's good news. Did that answer your questions? Awesome. Trustee Maestas.
Thank you. Thank you for that report too. I have two questions, both for in regards to Modesto Virtual Academy. My first question is the Florida Virtual School Curriculum. Do we have any data on the student experience so far from, so we have a lot of students taking the program. Do we have any data, like I don't know if you've collected or even qualitative data on how that's going for kids and what their experience has been so far?
I'll go ahead and take that one.
Okay.
Was it December, I believe, we actually gave a survey to parents, a separate survey to parents and students to ask them how they feel it's going, not only the connection with the teachers, but actually the curriculum itself, because we're reviewing if it's the best curriculum for us. And we were really pleased to see that it was something in the 80s, and I can get a BC to you on that, on the parents being very, very happy with the program as well as the students. We actually asked the students themselves, and they responded that they quite appreciated the program.
Great, thanks. And the second question I had is still with MVA. This is particularly probably for secondary kids. I know that when you get, at least my experience when I was in high school, it got to secondary math and my parents could no longer help me with math. And if I had a teacher that wasn't a math teacher, it'd be difficult to get any help on that. And that's very specific to secondary courses. I mean, that could be the same in an ELA, a science, any of those courses, because the teachers tend to be very specific in that subject area. I'm wondering if there was any thought if there's any like virtual content tutoring for kids that struggle. Let's say they have a teacher that's maybe not adept in biology and they need to get biology help. How does the student go out and do that?
So when we initially launched this, that was definitely a concern that came up often. These students that are MVA students still have access to every single opportunity at their school for tutoring, access to teachers within content areas, because they're still identified as a student of that particular school of residence. So that's one way students do have access to those tutoring opportunities at the school. In addition, the MVA teachers will sometimes look for different resources to help support those students, and our curriculum department has also assisted with providing resources to our MVA teachers to provide to students for those particular concerns.
And that would be kind of the similar thing that would happen next year if we...
Yes, we would continue that piece. I mean, there's absolutely a need for some additional supports on occasion, and so we would continue that piece.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Trustee Irvin?
Thank you. Thank you for that report. So when I see the report, I see that, and reading all this, that now Elliott is really going to become an alternative school, a true alternative school. And that's a good thing, a really good thing. In my years with the district, I spent a lot of time at Elliott. So it's nice that it's moving in the direction that it's becoming a true alternative school. I wanted to ask in terms of, also to piggyback on Trustee Maestas, about what data do we have, in terms of how students are doing at Elliott and G230, as well as in terms of, what are the trends we're seeing there in these particular programs. And is Modesto Technical School, is that only offered to Elliott students? Is it okay, only offered to Elliott students? And then another question I had is, what was the process of deciding which vocational CTE programs would go to LLS? Is construction and health. So was there a survey or just kind of looked at the market in terms of job market, career, areas? How was that brought forth to there? And then another question is, where is it? Okay, we lose 200 plus students to outside programs. How do we get them back? And what's the strategy going forward in terms of getting those students back? So, because we lost them because we didn't have the programs and support back then in those particular areas. So students we lost to the county and other programs and stuff. So what are we going to do in order to get those or entice those students to come back to our district, or come back home, as we would say. Again, also on the coordinator of vocational training, that's gone, right? Well, that would be gone. And so we're going from classified to certificated, basically. Okay. And again, great report. Glad to see we're moving in a really good direction as it comes to these programs in particular, but in generally, but Elliott in particular. So thank you.
You're welcome. So I think I got all of them written down, and if I miss one, please let me know and I can address it. So G230 and Elliott data, we can absolutely provide that through a BC. Basically, G230 last year, we had over 200 students, even in 2020, graduate from G230. They're typically fifth-year students that will continue through the program to acquire their credit acquisition. But we're very proud of the number of students that we serve and that we do get back on track for graduation. Elliott data, I'll be sure and get that to you, as well as MVA data. We just pulled that today, and we're putting together a report for you on that as well. CTE programs, how do we decide that? So the CTE committee that I led, we went through and we looked at different occupational outlooks, and we identified some different areas that have need. Just the other day, I saw another report. There's been a shift. Obviously, with COVID, we're having a shift in what our industry needs are. And thankfully, when I was looking at it, construction and healthcare are still at the top of the list. So those were some of the areas that have high need, and so we really believe that putting those programs at Elliott will guide those students directly to the workforce. Meets and METs, those are agreements with MJC. Prior to the pandemic, our Elliott students would actually go to MJC and attend school there. They would have their Elliott teacher there to get their credit acquisition for the courses they still needed, but then they would have access to junior college classes that had a CTE focus. So that's why it was a contract specifically for Elliott students. The 200 students plus that we want to get back, we got to get these programs in place so that it's an enticing place to come. It's the premier district. We can get them back. We stop the referrals from going anywhere because we actually have the programs and the systems in place to accommodate the needs of those students. The coordinator of vocational education, yes, that has historically been a classified management position. In shifting the programming and the positions within MVA, primarily when we have 34 teachers, they're needing evaluations, they need the certificated admin support. And so in looking at the whole picture, we really needed to get a certificated manager in there to assist with the programming needs. And I think I answered them all. If I missed something, please let me know.
And I just want to add one thing. I hear what you're saying, Trustee Irvin, about getting kids back, but I think we also have to recognize that we live within a county, and our district happens to pace more students than anywhere else. So I don't want to decimate that program because other school districts rely on that particular program. Now, we can stop the flow of kids going in, but I don't know about recruiting back, strictly because that's a program that is serving the needs of many districts. And so I think it's work to build the programs we have now and not having these kids go out because our programs are dynamic and meeting the needs of our kids.
Oh yeah, I just saw that it says we lose, and so to me that was a kind of a negative connotation. So I was like, pace, if it serves our purpose, fine. But when I saw lose, I thought, okay, if we're losing, how do we gain them back? So if their needs are being made, are met, then by all means, And so, and then at the same token, if we can meet their needs, you know, they have options. So.
Thank you. Trustee Mejia.
One was a little bit of a clarification on TOPS. You talk about the program is at Gregory. Can you explain a little bit more? What is it, Gregory? Is it just Gregory students? And we say transportation. Do we get students from all the district to go all the way to Gregory? I just want a little bit more clarity on that. And
Sure. There's been a history with TOPS, and the current location is Gregory. I believe TOPS started back in the 2010-ish. Some of you maybe are familiar with it from back then. And it shifted here and there. But right now it is housed at Gregory. It serves all the students of the district. Transportation, there's been a few hiccups here and there as far as having our Johansson students access it. This year, though, we have students from every site because they're able to access it since it's distance learning. Moving forward, we picked Downey because it's a central location, and in looking at the transportation needs for those students, they could come from a certain geographical location, and then Gregory serves the other geographical location kind of as a hub. So that's why those two schools were chosen, but all students do have access within the district.
yeah, can I just follow up? So yeah, I was just thinking, what are the numbers that come from which site to be able to that was kind of where I was going, like.
Sure.
To put it in a high school that it makes more sense where more students are coming from and more centralized. And I'm glad to hear Downey is one of the sites because I think it might be a little bit more central because it's a little closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So previously there was a TOPS program at Johansson that was serving that geographical location. That program ended and then G230 was expanded. That's a little bit of the history there. In looking at the needs in light of our current situation and COVID, we really believe that we need to have another opportunity for our 10th grade students who have been failing to come in and get back on track. Our other programs, G230, Elliott, therefore, our juniors and seniors are 16 years of age and older, so that puts a little more restrictions on access early on, and so we want TOPS to be that option and expand that option. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Marks.
Well, this is exciting. I know it's been decades coming, and just because of the teachers that have come to me in the past, and I knew it was going to take quite a significant, we'll call it an overhaul and a review and a deep dive into what's happening and what can we do to really support the programs that we have, to support what's happening at Elliott that's so great, and then expand it into what this is. So I'm excited to see that. I do know that the counselors are going to be key to this in identifying the students that are in the greatest need and then doing a plan. So I really liked seeing that you had the counselors on a plan to, I can't remember what it was called, but to their job description, to update their job description. Because I think that is where we won't have any students that get lost between the cracks and don't miss out on these opportunities. And then I wanted to know basically, how are we going to evaluate and monitor when we do this? Because whenever we do a change, and this is a significant amount of money that we're spending on this to do this change, which I'm grateful that we have the CARES funds to do that. So to be able to see how are students doing now, and then is there a plan to monitor it and then maybe bring it back to the board next year to give us a report around maybe April?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. So anytime we have something this substantial, we absolutely want to ensure that it's working for our kids, or if there's some changes that need to take place so that we're fiscally sound and providing those opportunities. So absolutely, I can provide a report, provided you guys approve this and we're able to move forward. I'll be happy to update you as often as you see fit.
Yeah. Well, it's great too that you already know that there's a lot of students in need, and that
Yes.
we're trying to expand it as fast as we can by next year. So that is really good. So great forethought. Loved all the questions and answers from all the questions, and then your answers were really helpful
Thank
in
you.
this. So thank you. I'm excited. Anyway, just knowing people and students and staff at Elliott just all over the years, I'm excited to see where this is going. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Was a very thorough report, and most of the questions, my questions have been answered, listening to you answer all the other questions. I'm really especially pleased to see the expansion into each of the high schools, because I think, I know students who've been, who have left their home school, going over to Johansson. This was a few years ago, and it was hard for them to be successful because they felt alienated, some of them, from some of their friends. So I think being able to keep it on their home campus, we won't have to worry about transportation. And a lot of students, I think, may have a little bit more of a buy-in. So I really appreciate that and the expanse. Trustee Brown, you have another?
Last question. We talk about destination district. Are we able to expand to the point that we can offer this and draw students from other districts who have needs that we can meet? Or are we really focusing on the needs of our own students at this point?
Well, so we have had students choose to come over to MVA through the inter-district transfer process. They filed their permits to come over, and so we are open to anybody that would like to come over, and they can fill out the proper paperwork, and we can accommodate their needs as well. And through this expansion, we'll meet the needs of our kids and provide opportunity for others.
Trustee Irvin, did you have another question?
Yeah. Because I was also involved in TOPS, Mike, as you know.
All right.
Back in the day. So I'm glad that I see that it's going to focus on sophomores, just the 10th grader. I think that's a really good way to go, and just focus the attention on those sophomores in terms of I think a more impactful intervention can happen in just focusing on those sophomores, and then again seeing it go to Downey. So now you got it, in the north there at Gregory, and then in this kind of like the central with Downey. So I think, it's more accessible to more schools or more students from different campuses to be able to go there. And then I think that focusing on sophomores will be able to, I think we'll see an increase in students going back to their home schools, back on track.
That's our goal.
So I that's probably the goal there. So, yeah, I do appreciate that focus now on just the sophomores.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for an excellent report. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Very informative. We're moving on to item B6, and this is our approval of incorporating Inter-High Council grading suggestions with those of the Secondary Grading Task Force. And I believe this will be Dr. Odell.
Testing. Okay, you can hear me. Well, good evening. Good evening, Board President, Dr. West, and trustees, Dr. Noguchi, my colleagues, and those of you at home watching. Tonight, I, as well as Carson Carranza, our student representative to the board, we're going to talk about secondary grading recommendations, both those from the adults in the Secondary Grading Task Force, as well as the students on the Inter-High Council. Our objectives for you will be reviewing the recommendations, again, from the Fall Secondary Grading Task Force. We will explore the Inter-High Council recommendations with Carson, preview our next steps, and recommend action. So our purpose for the Secondary Grading Task Force that happened this past fall was to review best practices currently in use at sites and review possible options to support students in earning passing grades. We really had two topics, and that was to explore the grading ideas as well as engagement ideas that came from the staff saying we have to figure out how to engage our students while they're at home. We met 3 times November, and December. A summary of the recommendations, again, we presented those last time that we met, and a summary is that the different content areas said we should accept late assignments. Don't give penalties for late assignments. Allow students to retake those assignments and quizzes and not give a lower grade for it. Give the grade, the higher grade they earn. Don't have large weighted, massive tests or assignments. Give lots of smaller assignments that add up. Change the grading scale. Have partner and group work. Give students choice, like a menu of options, that any of the options they choose equal the same amount, and then there's student voice and choice. Do some of the assignments, as many as possible, in class together, concurrently with the teacher, so they have the teacher with them for that support that may be needed, not so much at home by themselves. And again, like I said, chunking the work, making the work smaller portions, even if it leads up to a bigger culminating task. Here in Curriculum Instruction Professional Development, CIPD, we've worked really hard to provide lots of different supports and opportunities for teachers to get support, explore different ideas. For example, we worked to ensure that teachers understood the big changes that were coming with Power School during a winter recess. And Russ, he's with us online. He really helped us understand what our options were and how we were able to support teachers with their own creativity and freedom in choosing their grading scale. We created videos and screenshots showing teachers how to do that should they wish. We actually used a book study and provided PLC supports and did a lot of communication what options were. I think last time I shared with you also, our programs these days where the teachers are coming out of the programs, they don't learn a lot about their options. So I actually had several teachers email me later after the committee saying, thank you for, such and such. I really didn't know that was an option. I didn't know that we were allowed to do that. So it's sort of, you do what the grades you were given in college or what you remember from high school. You just kind of do what you know. And so it was great to give people ideas and let them explore and hear from their peers. This was really peer driven, what options that they had. So those were some of the supports that we provided. Now at this time, I would love Carson to get a chance to explore the Inter-High Council's suggestions and recommendations.
Thank you, Dr. Odell. So the Inter-High Council's grading policy recommendation is to assign a 50% for missing assignments instead of a 0. Students would still receive an F for the class if there is no engagement. However, students with the failing grade will be more motivated to aim for a passing grade when the base level is a 50 instead of a 0. The grades would be weighted from that 50%, so students who are already completing their work will not be penalized or discouraged from doing their work. Some students discussed this idea with their teachers, and one worry that came up was it would take away from challenging coursework in AP, IB, and honors courses. The important thing to remember is that this procedure and all others from the grading task force are recommendations. However, quite strong recommendations. But teachers know their students best and their class best, so it is a judgment decision based on the student's success. It is important for teachers to realize that their grading practices, no matter how long-standing, can and should be changed to best support students. Next slide, please. So some students from the Inter-High Council had valuable feedback regarding this grading procedure. The following are some of the comments. Distance learning has hampered learning in some way for all students. The grading procedure will help students pass their classes despite new circumstances. The policy will likely receive a positive feedback among staff, as it is a recommendation. If any teacher is opposed, they can choose not to implement it in their class. Many classes have extremely low participation, so this will help students be motivated to participate in class and earn their passing grades. Another great point from our last Inter-High Council meeting was that this grading practice will greatly help English learner students. These students have been doing their school online and without English language immersion at school, and this would make learning much more difficult. High schools will likely be moving into a hybrid model of learning, And we believe this grading practice would be incredibly beneficial, especially in the transition from online to in-person learning. And although students will begin to be in person, the environment of learning will not be the same, and students will still need additional support. At the end of the day, we all want our students, and especially the seniors, to graduate, and this grading practice will help the students do that. Thank you.
So our next steps after learning the recommendations from, there was about approximately 60 teachers from all of the secondary schools that were represented there, and hearing the suggestions from the Inter-High Council. We will be continuing to explore alternative ways for students to be successful during this COVID environment. We will be definitely participating, offering, facilitating professional development for staff on those best practices and the options that are available to them. This spring, we will begin selecting members for an equitable grading practices committee. And the spring-winter, we hope that we will be able to convene that same committee and identify recommendations for the board spring of 2022. At this time, we ask the Board of Education to approve adding the suggestions from the Inter-High Council to the recommendations made from the Secondary Grading Task Force. I'd be happy to answer your questions if you have any, as well as Carson, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. We're going to start with any comments from the public. Do we have any comments from the public, Ms. Chambers? No. Any comments, Ms. Noonan, to be read on
No,
this
we do
topic?
not.
No,
No.
thank you. So back to the board for questions or comments. Trustee Mejia?
Yes, first of all, I want to congratulate you for putting all this work together. And I know you've been really honing this. I think it's a great start, and I think I'm really looking forward to all the ongoing work that's going to happen in the next few years around this. So I'm really excited to all the work you have done, and you kind of set the way for other students to also take your baton once you kind of move on and continue. So I'm really thankful for your work that you've been doing in this, and I love the recommendations.
We're going to go Trustee Marks and then Trustee Brown.
So this was really interesting, and I didn't get to see this until tonight, but the summary of the recommendations, are we voting on those tonight or not? And that, I was just wondering, I know we're adding student trustee Carranza's recommendations into this recommendation. So I had questions on that, and so that's what I wanted to know.
The specific action we're requesting is that you would allow the students' suggestions and recommendations to be added to the adult recommendations from the committee.
Okay, right. And so I didn't know if we were voting on the adult recommendations in the future at some point or not. Okay. So I'm just going to make a comment then about some of them, but I really appreciate the students' recommendations. So I had just a couple of comments. One is on assignments in class, not at home. I was concerned about that just because when you're in a college setting or in an office setting, so you are going to be required to do some independent work. And to me, if you're always doing them in class and you're not doing them independently, sometimes you just have to do it on your own. You have to be motivated to do that. So that just kind of sent up a little uh-oh for me personally. And then I like the group work, the partner work. I think that's where we are in society now, where we do work a lot with partners, but we do have to do that independent study. And then the other thing was no late penalties, which I think is helpful for students. But I also know if you don't get your project done at work, you could get fired. So for students just to learn that there are sometimes penalties to things if you don't get them done on time. I'm sure there's other ways that students are able to do that. I like that we're accepting that they put forward to accept late assignments, but these are my thoughts. I obviously didn't see these until just a little bit ago, but I'm appreciative of all the input from the staff, and so I just wanted to make comments on those things. And then I do like the recommendation from the students on the 50% being a F instead of a 0, or on the missing assignments to be 50%. that's an easy one for people to see and understand, and so that is perfect. So I love how you wrote it out in your comments on that and why it's a good idea. So I think this is good, and then what your plans are for the future. So those were my comments. I didn't really have any questions other than I wanted to make sure we were adding his recommendations into it, but I didn't know if we were actually voting on the summary of recommendations tonight. So thank you for the clarity.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin?
One of mine was, first of all, Carson, thank you for all the work you put into this, working with the Inter-High Council. I mean, that's the leadership, of the students' voice in our district. So it's really good to see that they're taking this just as serious as we are. And so thank you for that leadership and the leadership of that Inter-High Council. And the report that you brought forth. And my only one basically was the same as, one of them was the same as Trustee Marks, was with the no penalty for the late homework. And so that was my only thing. But again, thank you for all that work that went into that.
Thank you.
Student voice
Trustee
is
Lopez?
Yeah, no. First off, I want to start by commending you, Carson, and the Inter-High Council for the great work that you did. It's very important. We always say we want student input, so I think it's wonderful that you're really representing to the position you were trusted to, and you're bringing along your fellow students, right? So I commend that. I did hear you say something about the weighted, and we spoke about it last time about the weighted grade afterwards. I would like to see that worded into the recommendations. I don't know if that was an actual recommendation you were making, but if so, I would like to see it a part of the wording. Other than that, I think I just want to kind of push back on what some folks are saying about no penalty. If we're saying there's no penalty. Oh, never mind. There was a recommendation by the adults. Never mind. I was getting two things confused. I leave it there.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Brown?
Yes, on the page of next steps, you mentioned the selection of members of the Equitable Grading Practices Committee. Want to find out if there are openings on that committee for student members, and can they be involved somehow in that committee work?
Absolutely. We need their voice just like we have student voice right now.
Good. And so for the next step item for the convening and identifying recommendations, want to make sure that we continue that student voice and help them feel connected to their own futures.
Thank you.
Great. Seeing no more questions or comments. Trustee Maestas?
I also want to say thank you for this, especially the work that was done by the students. One thing I talk about with my statistics students is the power of zero and averaging. And when you have a zero, it's an outlier, and it pulls grades down and doesn't have you can't get back into it. So it not only does that, but it brings back hope for students. So it's a hope builder. And also the work of the adults going through, taking time out of their dates to meet and talk about best practices. If I don't know if I can push back a little bit on the late assignments and no late penalties, but what I do appreciate when you take a look at these is the thought it goes into in looking for student evidence of learning as we focus on what the students are learning, not what they're doing, but what they're learning. And I think as we move forward and really focus on students and what they learn and how much we can affect that in them, I think that we're on the right track to hitting equity among all of our kids. So thank you for all your hard work.
I just want to chime in and thank everyone as well. I think this brings hope to our students who have experienced a lot of hopelessness this year. And so I'm really happy that you guys have all worked so hard on this. So I'm looking now for a motion for the approval of incorporating Inter-High Council grading suggestions with those of the Secondary Grading Task Force. Moved by Trustee Irvin. Well, who moved? Carranza, Student Representative Carranza. And I think we could give him that. And seconded by Trustee Irvin. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. 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 Seeing no opposed, it passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
And thank you for bringing this back from when we brought it up at the meeting before. I appreciate that. It came back in way better than I thought it was going to be something like consent. So this is awesome. Thank you.
And then our last agenda item for the evening is B10. And this is our public hearing on Modesto City Schools core values for negotiations and Modesto City Schools and Modesto Teachers Association initial proposals for the MTA-MCS collective bargaining agreement for the 2020-2021 school year, and board action to close hearing and vote to approve Modesto City Schools core values for negotiations and Modesto City Schools initial proposal and vote to receive MTA's initial proposal. So we are going to close the regular meeting and open a public hearing. Mr. Henderson, would you present this, please?
I think I have the record for the longest title of a board item. Thank you for Dr. West for going through all of that. Good evening, Dr. West, Vice President Lopez, and trustees. Government code requires that prior to a meeting and negotiating on any proposal submitted by public school employees, the public must first have an opportunity to become informed and express itself regarding the proposal at a public meeting. So as you indicated, Dr. West, a public hearing needs to be held prior to subsequent board action to vote and approve Modesto City Schools' initial proposal and vote to receive Modesto Teachers Association's initial proposal. And in addition, the board action is needed to approve the core values for negotiations. The district and the MTA have prepared their proposals and exchanged them, and we're preparing those for bargaining for this school year, 2020 to 21, and the core values are attached. So as you've gotten us gavelled into the public hearing, following that, the public hearing on the core values for negotiations and our respective initial proposals, it's recommended that the board take action to then close the hearing and vote to approve the Modesto City Schools core values for negotiations, the district's initial proposal, and vote to receive MTA's initial proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start in this public hearing to ask Ms. Chambers if we have any comments from the public on this item. None. Ms. Noonan, do we have any comments to be read from the public on this item?
No, we do not.
None. So back to the board for any questions or comments on this item. See none, we will now close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
Yep, that's fine. Just going to ask if, when it's time, I would like
When
to
it's time, okay. We're going to take a vote now. Trustee Marks, would you like to move? I'm not going to read the whole title, but.
Right, so I will like to make the motion to approve Modesto City Schools core values for negotiations and Modesto City Schools initial proposal and to receive MTA's initial proposal. I know receive is a key word. It's not accept. Otherwise, we have an agreement with no details. So it's to receive the MTA's initial proposal.
Trustee Marks moves to, makes the motion to receive the initial proposal, seconded by Trustee Mejia. And all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? See none, it passes unanimously. And the last thing is items to be placed on future Board of Education agendas. Just seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting. It is moved by Trustee Mejia and seconded by
I'll second it.
Trustee Marks. This meeting is adjourned.